our people, we need to set our culture for that success. We need to have shared purpose, a shared vision, and shared values across all our brands. And as you've seen, there are 12 different brands across the globe. If we want to be better than the sum of our parts, we need to be able to collaborate strongly, very connected. We need to share, to mentor, to be able to network together. And this should be good foundations to allow innovation, so to scale and to speed up our products with creativity, ideas, and solutions come to life in the right setting at the right pace. And this is all quite interesting, but difficult to achieve. Collaboration is very hard to achieve, actually. It seems like we are born with it, not so sure about that. It's actually quite difficult to collaborate. Even siblings fight each other, in order not to collaborate because they want everything for themselves. So I'm not sure, but this tends to be quite difficult to achieve, even though we practice this every day. And one way that we found that could be the right approach for this was precisely inner source. So we know where we want to go. We know what our strengths. We are aware of how our portfolio of products is so impactful and it's so innovated already in our global ecosystem. But we want to go further, and inner source appear as probably a good approach to go. And what is inner source? It's probably something that the majority of you may not be aware. I myself wasn't aware of this 1.5 years ago when I got to know about this project. And actually, I just searched the web okay, let me see who else is working in the source, just to have a chat and see, know more about it without being just searching in Google. And in LinkedIn, for example, when I type in a source, the first results that came up were all related with holistic therapies and life coaches. So it was about people helping others find their inner source, which is important. I think it's highly important. Looking back, I think there's some truth to it. We need our organization to have the chakras aligned. That's true. But the techniques, I'm sure, are quite different. So after searching a bit more, inner source is just the application of the principles of practices of open source, very much more familiar with the market. So open source, you have Wikipedia, you have Linux, you have Android. So all of these are softwares, whether operating systems or online encyclopedias, that everyone can contribute to and have a layer, of course, of controlling those contributions, but is accessible to everyone. And open source is principles and practices applied in software development within the confine of organization. So our software, we have property over it. We don't want to open it to the world, but we want to adopt those principles and practices into our software development internally. And that's inner source, quite simply put. But now, what are those principles and practices that we want to apply, that we want to put into practice? So as you can see there, that magnifying glass says a lot. If you want people to collaborate, if you want people to be able to contribute, to communicate, to innovate, you need first to provide the right set of visibility, the right set of accessibility, the necessary traceability. So people need to know where things are, how to access to it, and how can I contribute to it? And when that happens, you also need to make sure the contributions people do are accurate. So you need peer review of those contributions. And those peer review of contributions, they don't happen exclusively, for example, at team level, which is something that people are more familiar with in software development. They happen through an organization-wide review. So you can make a contribution that is reviewed by someone from a totally different brand than the one you work to. And also, for this to happen, for people to review and communicate, know where things are, how they can contribute, you need to have the proper communication channels. They need to be set up. You need to have also frequent and early feedback to make sure that whatever you're adding, it's getting the results we'd like to have, and around the cloud development. And this is quite important as well. Since we cover in 6 different time zones, it's good to know that our product can be constantly evolving and never stop by covering whole the globe almost. And so these principles and practices, when adopted, why should we take this road? So why should we, Flutter, adopt these principles and practices? Is mainly because at Flutter, inner source is a way to improve efficiency through code reuse. So as we've seen in the first slides, we have all those brands. We have 12 brands. Don't know if you remember. I'll just catch up. 12 brands, each of one of those with best-in-class products that are already filling the needs of their customers. So why shouldn't we take advantage of that and use some of those products, some of those features, and enable those to other brands, and with that, expand our markets? So inner source is a way to improve this efficiency through code reuse, and going beyond that is an amazing channel for learning, for exchanging ideas, and facilitating innovation through a diverse collaboration. So you no longer collaborate only with people that are closer to you, whether it's a physical closeness or just a team-based or department-based approach, is you collaborate with a diversity that goes beyond your ecosystem that you are daily used to it. And by doing this, so just by trying to apply these principles and practices, just to take these benefits, we are already innovating. So I can say that the innovation levels that we have been witnessing over the past year, for example, have been huge, had been a huge, really huge impact internally. Because in order for make these things happen, so if you really want people to be able to communicate and innovate, you need to make your code internally accessible. Oh, that sounds easy. That's not easy at all. Actually, just to make your code internally accessible, you need to investigate, try to understand the different realities, explore different tools, make several proof of concepts. And in our case, we ended up adopting GitHub to store our code and where everyone can have easy access to it. And so the code is internally accessible, but that's not enough. You need documentation to know how to use that code. You need documentation to know what it's there for. So not only we had to think about all this, we also have to create new artifacts to make sure that someone who has never been in my team that I was able, to pass word of mouth knowledge can now understand what is expected of him, of her. Another thing that we've done that causes a major impact is having an aggregated view of changes from all brands. So usually you have a roadmap view of your own brand, of your own organization, let's say. We've created an aggregated view of changes to that product coming from all brands. And this is quite interesting because, for example, if I'm a product owner or even a developer, and I can see, I gain awareness, something that I didn't have before, that brand is actually developing a specific feature. I can say, that could be interesting for my client as well. Maybe we could reuse it. And even beyond that, I can reuse that. I'll add just a bit, another feature or another behavior to it, and I have a new thing. So without this level of visibility of the roadmap, without, just a click to give a new idea, this wouldn't happen. Then to make all this, not be chaotic, you need to have clear contribution guidelines. And again, this seems like a simple sentence, but it's quite complicated because it's a process that has not been established before. You don't have any industry guideline on how to implement in the source, how to make things visible. So you have to understand first how your organization works. You have to have constant feedback on different approaches, but you do need to have a clear understanding from a moment an idea comes up, from the moment a new contribution is generated, like, okay, I would like to add this until it is merged, it is accepted to put into the product. You have to understand everything that happens in between. And this everything that happens needs to have what we can call gatekeepers, guardians of quality. We can name it differently. We name them maintainers and owners. But these inner source roles are crucial to make sure that whatever comes as a contribution is aligned with the best practices and the quality standards of the product. And finally, we are developing different ways of approaching what is the developer experience within our organization. So, for example, if you do want to scale, you need to think always in three main streams: in people, process, and tools. So the tools we had, probably we need to rethink. And so we are rethinking and running POCs in our branching strategy. So what is a strategy, to merge the code and make sure it's frictionless, it's rentless, we're not impacting other qualities from other brands. We have to understand how we can automate our tests to make it easier to pass in the quality standards and make sure whatever goes, it follows, again, the expected quality. And we have to automatize all our CI pipeline to make sure we have all set in place that allows this to happen. So all of this is currently being done as part of this willingness to move in a source, this willingness to have this strong collaboration. And this innovation that you've just seen is internally. It's what we're doing in our organization to make sure we are able to reinvent ourselves in order to collaborate and boost our innovation. But we are already reaching new heights with this. So here, for example, is the example of one of our products. And you can see it has different capabilities. We call it capability. We had also to rethink how we reorganize our products in terms of their capabilities, technical wise, and also functional wise. So modularity helps here. It's something we have to work also. And so what you can see here is, for example, since we've adopted InnoSource, those 5 arrows there show additions to the product, things we didn't have before. So other brands have already made these additions that others can use now. Another thing is like product reusage. So this product that you see here that was built in Europe is now being deployed in USA, which allow us to get a market growth that we would be unable to reach without having the deployment of a product that is already built and can be reused. So the impact of this, either adding new capacities to the product, add features, reach new markets easily, would not be able without this culture of strong collaboration and reusability that internally we are promoting. And so what does it mean to innovate with a source at Bleep specifically? So I've mentioned Flutter, we all part of Flutter. As I said, Bleep is one of its offices. And at Bleep Global Betting Platform, it's the product I've just mentioned before, it's our online sportsbook platform. It's where we have a lot of people working and contributing to this product. GBP alone has over 500 repositories with an average change per month over 1,000 times. So just imagine how is the dynamic of evolution of this product since we're able to open it to our organization as a whole. It's not as a whole, just say there, 4 brands. We have 4 brands currently working with GBP, which are Bettypower, Betfair, FanDuel, and PokerStars just onboarding. We have an average of 3 reviews per change. So for each change, people tend to receive 3 reviews, 3 feedbacks of what they're doing. We have 337 contributors, so people who actively are working with the product, and we have daily deployments. So you can see how dynamic this has reached. And also, for those who are not engineers, because if you're an engineer, probably will be coding, but this is way beyond software. So in InnoSource, yes, you do coding, but you also plan events, you take part in communities, you are constantly questioning and providing feedback, you can design and craft, because we're still building up all the time with our products, our process, the ways we work. So we only can do this by investigating, shaping, helping, mentoring. So it's way beyond software. And finally, it is a unique experience. So if you would join, when you feel like you're contributing for an InnoSource, it is a challenge professionally and also personally, because like I said, collaboration is not the easiest thing in the world. That's why we have people managing change, otherwise it will be required. All the challenges that you come across are being together in so many people, so diverse from you, with the same purpose. It is a great challenge for you, both professional and personal, but also you get the feeling of being a worldwide co-creator of entertainment. And I'm not overstating this. Whatever change is that you propose that gets a thumbs up from the community and is implemented, you're not just adding or impacting your brand, your team, you're actually contributing to all our clients. You may be contributing to all our brands. And in that sense, you really are a co-creator of entertainment, because that's what we do. It is our industry. And without wanting to portray this as a perfect picture of InnoSources, where that's the way to go, it is not. It has challenges. It is not suitable for all companies. So like I said in the beginning, we have a context of our organization. We have a purpose that is very clear. This was the approach that makes sense for us to take on. And while we have many challenges as well, is this up and downs that causes the adrenaline to keep us going as well. And that's also probably one of the major excitement of all this entertainment. Is a challenge that we go through. So I hope I was able to provide more insights of what InnoSource is, how we are applying it at Blip and way beyond Blip at Flutter level, to reach these new goals, to reach the purpose that for us makes sense as a company to grow. And I thank you. And if you'd like to know more, please go to our website, innosource@flutter.com, or drop me an email if you would like to just to chat a bit. And I'm not working in holistic therapies at the moment, so it will be about InnoSource with software. And we also have the comments below, and we'll follow up any questions about this. It's a huge theme. This is a short talk, but I hope I've passed the right message to get you more curious about it. And thank you.
Thank you, Arine. We had a little bit of issues with the sound at first, and we apologize for that. It's just to reiterate that we will be taking on comments in the comment section, and Arine will be answering some comments there. So we'll allow for a couple of minutes for Arine to interact in the comment session while we get the next talk ready, and we'll be back. It's just a couple of minutes. We'll now hear from JP O'Neill, strategy architect within our global betting platform team. As a strategy architect, JP helps ensure a common technical vision and alignment between all divisions contributing to the global betting platform. His talk, What's So Special About Developing a Global Sports Betting Platform, will give an overview of the global betting platform, an inner-sourced platform used around the Flutter Group. Welcome, JP.
Thank you. Let me just get my slides going. Apologies. Yeah. hopefully you can all see the slides. Thank you so much for that very kind introduction. And so yeah, just before we start talking about what is a global sports betting platform, I should just probably introduce myself again. I'm JP. I'm a strategy architect within the GBP team. I have been part of the Flutter group for 9 years now. I just thinking back to what Arine said in her talk around lots of career development. 9 years I've had various roles between engineering and management, and now into architecture. I actually joined the company. Well, I interviewed in the company the day after I had my PhD dissertation defense. So I've been here a long time. So that's enough about me. I'm sure you all want to know, what is a betting platform? And I appreciate not everyone on this call or on this session may be aware of what is a bet, what is a betting platform. So I just have a quick screen grab here of one of our brands, Betfair. And this is a match that's taking place tonight between Benfica and, I apologize for my terrible pronunciation here, but Boavista. As you can see, Benfica are heavy favourites, but Boavista still have a 20-1 chance of winning. What we offer is the ability for people to bet on these events. Now, this doesn't just mean betting on who will win the match. It can be betting on what will the score, but it goes much deeper than that. It can be who will score the first goal, which team will have the most shots, will there be a corner in the 5th minute? All these type of opportunities we offer to bet. We offer betting on. From a technical point of view, it's probably worth thinking of a bet as a purchase. So you effectively buy the draw at 15-2. If you pay 2 euro, you could win 15 euro. That's how I kind of sometimes have it in my mind. It's a purchase. So that is our front end. What the global betting platform provides to our brands is effectively the back end functionality. Now, this is a very helicopter view. Just talking about the types of systems and services we interact with and provide. So I'm responsible for the big box in green. You saw there the kind of the divisional front end channels. So that's our customer facing point of view. We also interact with other systems around the group, such as kind of our sports models. So that's where the kind of crux of those prices are generated. That's where models run thousands of simulations to generate a probability that allows for us to have an accuracy over what is the right price for a customer to be offered. We also interact with systems like the other kind of data services, so data warehouse and account and wallet as well. Now, Arine has kind of already talked to the fact that we have multiple brands. So currently GBP is in use across 4 brands, FanDuel in North America, Paddy Power and Betfair across primarily, UK and Ireland for Paddy Power and Europe for Betfair, and Betfair is across UK and Europe, and then we've PokerStars Sports as well, who are just getting on board the GBP journey. This already introduces one of our kind of challenges though, because not all these brands are the same. They all have their own unique requirements in terms of what they want to do for a customer, what they want to offer, and also what their underlying systems will run on as well. But GBP overall is the kind of center of the products that we offer to customers. While I'm on this view, it's worth just talking briefly around the journey of the global betting platform, or GBP. It started off as just providing the sportsbook to the Paddy Power and Betfair brands, but then the opportunity came when FanDuel came on board. And as Arena's talked already, GBP wasn't created as a inner source product. It became an inner source product. So that was part of the overall journey there, moving it from something that was not so much narrow in focus, but was providing service to one brand to moving to 2, moving from 2 brands to 3 by inner sourcing, and now over to PokerStars. What does it actually offer though to our customers? It offers, so I said, it offers the ability to bet. How much interactions there are though can be quite staggering in terms of the numbers. So for one brand, on the peak of 2021 so far, we had around 26,000 bets placed a minute. So again, think of that as 26,000 individual customers logging onto a website and making a purchase. Now, that is already complex enough, but the other challenge we have is when I talked about those kind of trading platforms that provide the raw data for what the purchase price should be, those prices change as those 26,000 bets are placed. If all of those 26, so if half of those 26,000 bets were placed on the draw we had tonight for tonight's game, that would probably mean we think that would mean that the draw is probably more likely, so the price should change to reflect that. There's a lot of complexity there. And then at the end of the sporting event, if we were getting up to 26,000 bets placed, when it's all over, that's hundreds of thousands to millions of bets that need to be settled. Now, settlement is effectively when we know the result, doing the right thing to that bet. So if someone had bet on the draw and it was a draw, I'm not saying it's going to be, that match isn't kicking off for another 45 minutes. But if all those bets are on a draw, we have to settle all those bets, i.e. pay out the customer. And people want that from a company point of view. We want that to be as seamless and as possible. So we invest a lot of time in that being fast. So we're up to about 70,000 settlements, which is still quite high. It's obviously something that can go higher and higher and higher. GBP is the backbone of the sports book of the kind of big opportunity world. How does it function now? I'm going to show you a picture. I am not going to walk through this picture. Don't worry. This is just to show the kind of complexity we're talking about here. So GBP is not a monolith. It is a collection of services, or as Arine talked about earlier on, capabilities that have their own domain and that are all there to provide overall functionality to the customer. The reality is that there's a lot of complexity here, and we can add into that the fact that we have multiple deployments as well. So we talked about all the brands. Each brand has its own deployment of this and its own configuration as well, because each brand is slightly different. Now, what are the challenges of GBP or the global betting platform? Primarily, those challenges are scale. Now, I appreciate scale is a hugely overloaded term, and I'm sure everyone on this call has a different view in their head of what scale means to them. When I'm talking about scale and a challenge for GDP, I'm talking about it as three areas of scale: functional scale, development scale, and operational scale. So from a functional point of view, it's a bit more of a zoomed in. It's still very high level, but from a functional point of view, we have a number of capabilities. They are all providing different types of services to the customer or to the backend system. So, such as presenting those betting opportunities, presenting those prices, presenting the events as well. So that Benfica match, getting that view to the customer. There's also services there that allow for a customer to interact with their bet. So one good example of this is cash out. So if I bet on the draw, that was at 15-2, hypothetically, and again, I don't know the result of this match, hypothetically, if the match was 80 minutes in and it was still 0-0, the price for a draw would be much more likely. I'd bet on it at 15-2. I have the opportunity to actually take a portion of my winnings early. That's cash out. Now, think about the complexity of that interaction. So that requires knowledge of the bet that was placed at the price it was already placed at, and also what the current probability of that event happening are. There's also other systems that allow for play. So I've talked about placing a bet on a draw. There are more complicated bets, more complex bets. I don't want to say complicated. It's probably an overused word. There are more complex bet types, such as those that involve related probabilities. So think of the underlying logic required to bet on the draw, but also there to be 20 corners in the match. These things aren't necessarily unrelated, so you can't just multiply those two probabilities. There's also, from a kind of functional point of view, GDP has to interact with other systems, such as the account and wallet. Now, I already talked to how we have a challenge with the brands. So we have multiple deployments of GBP. Each of those deployments, each of those brands has their own unique account and wallet system potentially. So that means we have to maintain those APIs. So even though we're looking to reuse, we have to reuse in a way that allows for divisional independence where it makes most sense. There's also allowing for differing deployment environments. So we have some of our brands use a private cloud, some of them use AWS. From a GDP point of view, what we build has to work on in all these environments. So again, that's just another kind of type of challenge. That kind of leads into the kind of operational scale. So as we said before, we have 4 brands. Each of those brands has different requirements in terms of what they want to offer a customer, what a customer can and can't do. And then we also have multiple deployments. So again, that large, scary diagram I showed you before, for FanDuel, for instance, they, because of regulatory requirements, they have to have a deployment per state. So there's an overhead there that we need to be mindful of as well as we further enrich GBP. There's also our interaction with external systems. So I've talked about account and wallet, but we have monitoring differences between all the brands, data warehouse differences, all these different gotchas on the edges of the system just adds into our overall operational complexity. There is also then our development scale. Now, I appreciate that Arine has already talked to this at length, but from a GDP point of view, it's worth thinking again about how. So we have 4 brands, multiple instances of GDP. An instance of GDP is around 25 capabilities. All that translates to 500 repositories, and I just checked the stats this morning. So in the last 20 days, there were 500 pull requests raised for GDP. So again, that just kind of shows you the overall complexity of the system we're talking about here. Where GDP is going to go in the future, we have a big desire to simplify it. So again, what we have right now, it's a complicated problem to solve. That doesn't mean it should be a complicated solution. We want to simplify it as much as possible. We want to simplify it so it's easier to operate, easier to deploy. We want to introduce more decoupling. We have plenty of decoupling between the systems, but we want to introduce more and more decoupling. We also want to reduce what the minimum size footprint of a deployment is. So again, to allow for more flexibility for a brand, if a brand doesn't want to use cash out, so again, like on top of the cash out functionality, that may not be a requirement for another brand that comes on board. They shouldn't have to consume that capability. It's all about flexibility. It's about making this a better system, because I guess from an inner sourcing point of view, like reuse and independence are kind of conflicting thoughts at times. So it's about kind of merging those two and getting the best side of that. And we think if we can do all those things, if we can make it easier to deploy, easier to build, easier to contribute to, we'll make a better product that we can add more functionalities in. So we have 20 odd capabilities now. We want to increase that. We want to be able to provide whatever technology the business needs in all those territories. They're all slightly different. If a territory has a very particular product they want or need to deploy, we want to be easy for them to do that. But we want it to be done in that way that can be shared and reused across the entire Flutter group. And then we also think we'll be able to reduce that kind of time to market. But there's also, by simplifying all our flows, and we think we'll also be able to reduce any challenges we have in terms of customer performance. So take the amount of time it takes for a customer to see the latest price, for a customer to see the latest events, all these things will just improve our overall experience. So I appreciate that was a very well stopped tour of the global betting platform. As we discussed already, please leave any comments, any questions underneath this post, or just reach out directly to me. I am more than happy to get into the weeds, into the detail of this with you guys. But so yeah, thanks so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, JP. Please note, JP will be answering your questions in the comments section of this stream. Arine is also available there. We'll allow for a couple of minutes for JP to interact with you, and then we'll close off this session. Thank you for joining us in this first day of our first Open Tech Week. Feel free to browse our website for more information on Blip and the Flutter group, and reach out to our speakers or to us directly here on LinkedIn if you feel the comment section doesn't cover it. I'll see you tomorrow at 6 p.m. here on LinkedIn for a couple of talks on our new betting experience for the Betfair brand and some of the challenges we face. Obrigada e até amanhã.